Welcome to this video. Today's topic, a marriage out of community of property without the accrual regime. If you watched our previous video, we dealt with the scenario where a couple wants to get married out of community of property with the inclusion of the accrual regime. Basically, during the marriage, there are two separate estates, and at divorce or at death, there will be a share in the growth of the marriage. That is the accrual regime. Today's topic, a couple wants to get married out of community of property without the accrual regime. In short, what the couple wants is that during the marriage, the husband's assets belongs to him, the wife's assets belongs to her. Whatever debt the couple had before the marriage remains with that specific spouse. Should the parties decide to get divorced, or should one of them pass away, then the same will still apply. There will still be two separate estates. They will not share in any of the other parties' assets after the marriage has been dissolved. The same way that was applicable while the couple was married to each other. Therefore, if a couple is married out of community of property without the accrual system, throughout the marriage and after the marriage, the estates will remain separate. What's his is his, and the same applies to the lady. If a couple wants to get married out of community of property, the couple has to enter into an antenuptial contract before the marriage. The antenuptial contract will be drafted by a notary public, a specialist attorney, and the antenuptial contract will have to be signed in front of the notary public before the marriage is concluded. And obviously, thereafter, the notary public would register the antenuptial contract at the Registrar of Deeds. Therefore, it's very important, and many couples forget about this, or they're not properly advised, or they neglect the specific requirement that if you want to get married out of community of property, you need to conclude an antenuptial contract before the marriage. And that can only be done before, in front of a notary public who will register the antenuptial contract. On a side note, if a couple has not done that, they would have to approach the High Court for a change in the matrimonial property regime from in community of property to out of community of property, and that can be very expensive. Therefore, if you want to get married in community of property, meaning where you share everything, your debt, your property, your money, assets, and so on, you do nothing. You do not enter into an antenuptial contract. But if you do not want that, then this is a video for you. Before you is a antenuptial contract. You can see it from there, and it specifically says that the accrual system is excluded from the matrimonial property regime. The document is drafted by notary public. You can see there's a space, and parties getting are Kate Wellington and Mark Wellington. They appear before the notary public, and in this document they do the following. They say that there shall be no community of property between the parties. That's a default position if there is no antenuptial contract. And point two, that there shall be no community of profit and loss between the parties. And thirdly, and most importantly, the accrual system, as provided for in Chapter 1 of the Matrimonial Property Act, number 88 of 1984, is hereby expressly excluded from the marriage. That is very important. If that clause is not stipulated in the antenuptial contract, then the accrual system would apply. Going further down, we see that this document is signed by Kate Wellington and also before witnesses. And further down, the notary public, my apologies, would sign this document. Therefore, in short, if you want to get married out of community property without the accrual system, please see a notary public as soon as possible or sometime before the marriage, and he or she would draft an antenuptial contract similar to what you've seen now, sign it in front of the notary public before the marriage. He or she will have it registered, and the marriage will be out of community property without the accrual regime. Thank you very much.